CASAC has launched an application at the Johannesburg High Court challenging the constitutionality of the recent Judicial Service Commission interviews for vacancies at the Constitutional Court. You'll remember that we did actually cover some of those interviews right here on Newsroom Africa. But for more on this story, I'm joined by Mbekezeli Benjamin, a researcher at Judges Matter Group. Thank you very much, Mr. Benjamin, for your time today. Talk to us about the unconstitutionality that is alleged to have taken place. What is wrong with the manner that some of the candidates have been interviewed?
Good afternoon, Thami, and good afternoon to the newsroom viewers. Well, what CASAC is complaining about, and which is what they're saying is unlawful and unconstitutional, is the process for the interviews. They say that the way that the JSC interviews candidates for positions on the Constitutional Court was unfair on the candidates, was irrational in that the questions that were asked of the candidates have no rational connection towards assessing whether or not they are suitable for appointment as judges. And so they say that entire process taints the ultimate decision that they took to recommend the candidates that they did. So what they're asking for is that the whole process must be set aside and must be restarted.
The manner and the questions that the Commission chooses to ask, should that not be at the discretion of the Commission, in a sense that perhaps they know what underlying factors they're trying to solicit from the interviewer?
It absolutely should be, Thami, but that is not the case currently. What the Constitution requires is that for someone to be appointed as a judge, they must be fit and proper. So the JSC, in its interview process, must assess whether that person is fit and proper. Ideally, they should draw up a criteria or set of criteria with factors of what they look for. And those factors should guide the questions that are ultimately asked of the candidates. So, for example, if you are being interviewed for a position on the Constitutional Court, there should be questions that are asked about your knowledge of constitutional law, about your knowledge of the law generally, and your ability to produce high-quality judgments that are influential in the law. They should be asking those kinds of questions. And from what we see, the JSC doesn't seem to be following a set criteria. Some of the questions stray beyond issues of that relates to the fitness or propriety of a candidate, and which is what CASAC is raising in its application, is that some of the candidates were asked about politics in Israel and Palestine. Others asked about cases that they had decided, or cases that involved influential people, prominent people like President Zuma, and they asked to give opinions on those. You could tell from those questions whether or not they are still assessing the fitness of to be a constitutional court judge, or whether they were now dealing with other issues.
Let's look at the flip side of the coin, Mr. Benjamin. In as much as not all the candidates were asked similar questions, is it not important to understand the general inclination of the potential candidate, how they would deal with some very uncomfortable and oftentimes controversial cases which are dominant as we speak?
Yes, they absolutely should be. And I don't think, from reading their application, I don't think CASAC is asking that the Judicial Service Commission should not ask difficult questions of the candidates. In fact, they encourage difficult questions to be asked. But the issue is that some of those questions, you struggle to draw a link between them and the ultimate fitness of a person to hold office. And I was sitting in those interviews in the past month, and you could see that some of the questions, like one of the candidates was asked whether or not him as a Jewish person keeping the Sabbath will interfere with his judicial responsibilities. And a lot of people were startled in the room, and I think the SA Jewish Board of Deputies even released a statement criticizing those things, because whether a person is religious and they keep the Sabbath, or whether or not they are not religious, it really has nothing to do with their responsibilities as a judge. And so those are the kinds of questions that should have not been allowed if there was a clear criteria that the Judicial Service Commission was using to assess the fitness of the candidates.
So CASAC has now launched an application at the Johannesburg High Court challenging the constitutionality of this process. What is the end desired outcome that CASAC would want to see?
From reading their papers, CASAC wants the process, this recently concluded process, to be set aside, so to be declared unlawful and unconstitutional, and set aside, and then the process should be restarted. So there should be new interviews that are held with the candidates. And they're also asking that the president should not proceed with confirming those appointments until that case is resolved.
All right, we'll leave it at that for this afternoon. Mr. Benjamin, thank you for your insight. That's Mr. Mbekezeli Benjamin, researcher at Judges Matter.